And
hello everybody, I'm Dave Abrams from the Office of County Executive Steve Shue, Anne Arundel County, and I'm very happy to be here today for us to answer some questions you have about Hurricane Florence. And here with me today is our Director of the Office of Emergency Management, Kevin Afton. Kevin, thank you for joining us on Facebook Live.
Well, Dave, thanks for taking the time to meet with me, and I want to thank everybody who has been sending in questions for the last 12 or 15 hours. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, as people are kind of getting acquainted, you know, just little rules of the road here for everybody. Is everybody seeing us okay? My monitor looks like, so I have a monitor here and I'm looking at what you guys are saying. Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. Let me turn the volume down. Okay, sorry about that. Just want to make sure my monitor is good. Ruben and Bonnie, thank you for joining us. All right, so Kevin, tell us a little bit about, first of all, you had a conference call at 11:30 with the National Weather Service. What's sort of the latest? What are we hearing?
Well, it's good news for Anne Arundel County. It appears the storm track is taking a little bit different turn than originally anticipated by the National Weather Service and the National Hurricane Center. We've been in touch with both, and it looks like for the most part the storm, once it crosses the border of North Carolina, is going to remain in North Carolina. That's bad for them, but it's good for Anne Arundel County. The rain shield is large on the storm, and it's a very powerful storm, so there will be rain in our area, and we will have some tidal surge, but I don't anticipate a lot at this point. So not in Anne Arundel County. Now in Southern Maryland that could be different, but for us, I think that we may survive this in good shape.
Okay. Now, obviously, hurricanes are pretty unpredictable, right? So, I mean, we don't really know exactly where it's going to hit land right now, or do we?
Absolutely.
We know with certainty?
We absolutely do not, and that's actually a really good question, and I can expand on that a little bit. The storm is about 900 miles away from North and South Carolina. It has a bullseye sort of towards Wilmington, North Carolina. There is a thing called a cone of uncertainty, and if anyone has looked
I love this. I love the cone of uncertainty. It's just such a weird thing.
Well, if anybody's looked at the NHC pages, you'll see the cone of uncertainty, and basically the cone is a track for the hurricane. The center of the cone is the most probable path for the hurricane.
Right.
However, the outside borders of the cone, the path could be anywhere in between those borders, and in rare cases it will actually wander outside of those borders even though they've projected it to stay inside. So although we have a bit of good news for us, we still are monitoring very carefully. We're still planning for the worst in case it would happen and hoping for the best. And we continue to plan and prepare as if we were going to get the full brunt of the hurricane so that we can protect our citizens adequately.
Okay. So let's say that, first of all, you mentioned a rain shield. Whenever we mention jargon, I'm going to cut you down and say, what is a rain shield? Okay. What is that?
A rain shield is the actual area of cloud cover where the rain will fall. Obviously, when a hurricane...
When you see the big satellite image from...
Right. Anywhere you see clouds, that's the area of the rain shield.
Okay.
Some hurricanes can be as wide as 200 miles wide, and if that's the case, even if it hits in Carolinas, we're still going to get some rain from it. So that's what I'm talking about when I talk about the rain shield.
Okay. So is the hurricane still a Category 4?
It is still a Category 4 and actually could become a Category 5 before it hits Carolina. It's going to be really close.
Okay. So let's say it hits North Carolina dead on and it sits there for a while. This is what I was hearing last night, is it'll sit there for a while. How will that affect us? Will we see drizzle? Will we see storms? Will it be windy?
Well, again, figure it as a bullseye, if you would. The closer to the bullseye you are, the worse the weather, the worse the intensity of the wind and the rain. The further out from the bullseye you go, the less rain and the less wind. I do anticipate some tropical storm force winds for our area. There's a 40% chance of those tropical storm force winds hitting. That's normally going to be for us around 35, or about 20 to 30 miles an hour. There may be some 35-mile-an-hour gusts. The thing we need to watch for is we've had a lot of rain over the last week.
Right.
And if we get a significant amount of rain with a storm, it's going to create problems not only for flooding, freshwater flooding, but also for trees falling because the soil is so saturated.
Yeah, I think I heard somebody on the Weather Channel last night said that when the ground's saturated like it is, even a 30-mile-per-hour wind could knock a tree over.
Is enough to take a tree down or a power pole.
Okay.
Or wires.
All right, so tell us a little bit about what the Office of Emergency Management does, what your role is going forward here.
Well, basically, we have a plan that we use. It's a 5-day plan. Whenever there's a storm that is at least 5 days away from Anne Arundel County, we institute our 5-day plan. In that plan, we contact all of our partners. We are in contact with the Weather Service, all county departments. We also are in contact with MEMA, with the National Hurricane Center, with anybody who is a partner who has any part of this, we are in contact with.
And you guys drill this throughout the year. You plan and you drill.
We practice this all the time so that we're prepared for it. We had a battle plan built on Saturday. On Sunday, we implemented our battle plan, and we have been on conference calls ever since Sunday morning. Yesterday, we had 7 conference calls. Today, 5 so far. We have 2 more to have. We will continue that up until the time that the storm strikes the border of the United States.
Just because I like to say cone of uncertainty, when does the cone of uncertainty pass and we can say for sure when are people really going to know the answer to this? Is it Thursday? Is it going to be Friday morning, or do we not know that?
Right now, I think our best guidance will be at least Thursday morning.
Okay.
We'll be a lot closer to the storm then. We'll know for sure. The Weather Service will be starting to focus on where the actual path will be.
Okay.
But for the meantime, we try to trust that cone of uncertainty as an area that we should watch for and the surrounding areas around it.
Oh, some folks are saying that they're having is the sound loud enough, everybody? I do have one person saying we're not close enough to the speakers. Yeah, I'm hearing that from a couple people. Is there anything we can do with that, Dale?
Can project a little bit.
We can turn the volume up on the phone, maybe. Can you get to the buttons there? I think you got it right there.
I think we may have to speak louder.
We may just have to speak louder. Carol says not loud enough, so we will speak louder.
Hi, Carol.
Katie says speak louder. Is that good? I can be pretty loud, Kevin. How about you?
Oh, sure. Why not? We'll pretend we're at the Redskins game.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we have 100 people. We just got to 100 people watching right now, so that's great. Thank you, everyone, for the interest. Delegate Seth Howard, shout out to you, my friend. Carol Lorenz and Derek Matthews and Laura Brown. Let's see here. Don Curtin, Ruben. Thank you, everybody. So some people did submit some questions online last night. So you talked about the cone of uncertainty. Let's go with one of the questions you had on there.
Sure, and again, from everybody, I appreciate all of the questions that you've sent in. I want to talk a little bit about rainfall maps for those of you who may be a weather geek like me and get on all the weather sites and look. The rainfall maps are only accurate for the projected path of the storm. So that means if the path changes at all, the rainfall amounts are going to change. So what I'm saying in essence is, even though it's an estimate of how much rain we may get, please do not trust the rainfall maps as being 100% accurate. They are not.
And they don't necessarily skew too high or too low. They're just not quite right because it depends on where the storm goes.
If the storm moves as little as 10 miles, it could drastically change how much rain falls.
Do we know, what are we estimating the rainfall is going to be for Anne Arundel County?
The latest maps show about 4 inches. That could change, again, depending on the path. As I said earlier, in case you didn't hear me, we do have some favorable news for Anne Arundel County. It appears that we may be out of the direct path. However, the storm is still 900 miles away, and we have to be extremely cautious about watching the track of the storm should it change. So I am not letting my guard down at this point. We continue to plan for a major storm, just in case.
Now, our friend Delegate Howard down in South County has a question for you. He says, I have low areas in my district that normally get cut off due to high water. What extra resources are going to be available to ensure the safety of residents on the Mayo Peninsula, Shady Side, etc.?
One of the first things I would advise, sir, is that if you live in a low-lying area like that you know is prone to flooding, you should plan for that. Now is the time to plan, not Thursday.
Right.
So what folks need to do, what homeowners need to do, is make sure if they plan on staying with their home and doing what we call sheltering in place, they need to make sure they have food, water, and medication available. Water should be 1 gallon per day per person. Food obviously is someone's choice, and medications for at least 3 to 5 days. You should have at least a 3 to 5 day supply of emergency supplies, so that if you do get cut off, you are able to survive just fine. Now, along with that, I would suggest, we're not ordering an evacuation by any stretch, but I would suggest if you are in a low-lying area, if you do have family or friends who are in a more dry area or a safer area, you may want to consider relocating to that area with family or friends for a few days until the danger of this storm is past.
We should ask for the children of Anne Arundel County, are we going to have school on Friday?
That is not my call.
Bob Mosier, are you watching?
The
kids want to know.
That is strictly the Board of Education who makes that call.
Okay.
We are working closely with the Board of Education because we do use some school facilities for shelters if needed.
Okay, here's a question we've heard quite a bit from Floyd. Floyd, are you related to Hurricane Floyd? Remember Hurricane Floyd?
I certainly do.
Will there be sandbags?
Okay, Anne Arundel County does not provide sandbags for residents. My suggestion would be, and this is strictly a suggestion, an idea, a thought, is if you think you need to build a protective barrier, I suggest going to one of the local home stores and getting a couple of bags of topsoil, maybe a couple of bags of grass seed, maybe even some Leaf Pro, anything in plastic bags like that. They do a great job of building a barrier, and once the rain is diminished and gone, you will have the necessary supplies to repair your lawn. So that's just one suggestion, one idea.
So you don't go with the sand, you're a topsoil guy.
I'm a topsoil guy, as long as it's in a plastic bag that's sealed.
Don't dump the soil out. That's not gonna work. Now you're gonna have mud.
Right.
Don't. You gotta tell people this stuff.
Please do not dump out the soil.
Don't dump out the soil. Okay. So we're not providing sandbags. Does that work? I mean, does using piling up bags, is that effective?
It is. Water is non-compressible, so for the most part, the only water that will get through the bags is where there are cracks or leaks.
Right.
But no, the bags do work. The water will be pushed away if you bag up.
Can we talk for a minute about flood insurance? Because I know
Absolutely.
everybody has questions about that, and without going out overboard here, it seems like a lot of time, with Sandy, we had lots of families where their properties were destroyed and they never got the insurance claim. Do you have any tips for people on what they should do about?
I do. First of all, if you're in a low-lying area or you're around the water, you should have already purchased your flood insurance. Most flood insurance policies require a 30-day in effect period before you can file a claim. So that means the
that
policy
ship has sailed for this storm.
It has to be at
So
least
take
30
care
days
of
old.
it. Yes, take care of it
Yes.
now. And I believe so. You don't need to be in the floodplain to get flood insurance. Is that right?
That is correct. You do not have to be. You can get National Flood Insurance Program almost anywhere that you live.
Is there anything to look for in good policy, bad policy, like something that has to be in there so you know you'll be covered, or anything?
I would strongly recommend contacting an insurance professional.
Okay, that's a fair answer. Okay, let's see here. Dawn says she had bags of soil during Isabel and they ripped apart. They were not effective. I would assume that would happen for a sandbag too. It's still plastic.
Well, there's different kinds of material that bags are made of. Some sandbags are made of something similar to Kevlar, so they don't tear. The plastic bags that soil is in, I'm surprised that they tore, but anything is possible. That was just a suggestion since the county does not offer sandbags.
Okay. And I'm kind of glad that, of course everyone's glad to see the storm path is not heading right for us, but I think also what better time when everybody's paying attention to get them to do these things so they have a little peace of mind. It's still hurricane season. You could have another one come next week. So what are some things, I'm glad we're covering all this, what are some things I should do to protect my home in terms of, you got to clean the gutters, right? You got to make sure your sump pump's working properly. What are some things that you should do?
Well, thank you for covering two of the most important ones. That's great.
I've been doing this for a while.
However, if you are in the path of a hurricane or in the path of a tropical storm, particularly in this area, Believe it or not, the weakest point on your home is your garage door. If you have a garage door. If you have a garage with a garage door, that's the weakest point.
Really?
So that door needs to be braced from the inside, and you need not to use your garage during a storm.
That's a good tip. I've never heard that one.
The second tip along with that would be to secure all your windows and doors and make sure you lock them. If we're calling for really severe weather, it may even be worth installing plywood over the windows and doors if need be.
But don't do that today.
Don't do that today.
Don't do that today.
No.
Okay.
Another thing, believe it or not, is just maintaining around the outside of your home. And what I mean by that is if you have low-lying branches or limbs that are near your home, those should be trimmed. You want to keep trees back from your home. And you also want to make sure that anything that's loose in your yard, like lawn equipment, is stored and put away prior to a storm approaching.
Okay.
The last two things that are really important to me. Number one, if you haven't done this and you have a cell phone, you should do this, and you should do it today if you have time. Take an inventory of your home. Go through every room, take your cell phone, and snap a picture of every single valuable thing you have in your home. That will help you later if you have to have an insurance claim, that you have photo proof that you had a $10,000 stereo system, as an example.
That is a fantastic tip.
And the other one is, and it's a little late for this one now, is to make sure your insurance policy is updated with the right deductibles and the right coverage amount, and that it's done before a storm hits.
Still a good idea to start doing this stuff. You know, hopefully, Lord willing, we won't have any terrible disaster sort of scenario coming. So again, I think this is a really good time for everybody to listen to what Kevin has to say. Let's see here. Anita says people can fill Ziploc bags with water and freeze them. If they lose power, your food will stay cold.
Great idea, Anita. Thanks for that tip. Also, along with that, if you use bottled water on a normal basis and your water in your house is potable, it's a good idea to recycle those empty bottles, fill them up with water, and keep them as your supply stock if your water would be lost. That's a problem, let me address that real quick. With sheltering in place, the reason I say be prepared with food, water, and medicine for 3 to 5 days is because if you do shelter in place and we do get any significant storm damage, you can expect your utilities to go out, which means no electric, and it also could possibly mean no water depending on the water system you're on. So it's a good idea to do that, and thank you for that tip.
For some reason, everyone is commenting in all caps, tidal surge.
Okay.
Tidal surge, Kevin.
Tidal surge is very important in this county. Anybody who has been watching the news recently has seen in Annapolis that what a small tidal surge can do to downtown.
Yes.
Now, I want to provide the latest information I have from the Weather Service and the Hurricane Center from my call earlier. Right now, we are not expecting a significant tidal surge in this area. There may be a slight to moderate tidal surge, which could probably be at most 1 to 2 feet. That's on the projected course that we have right now. If that course changes tomorrow, tidal surge could change with it.
Now explain to me, as somebody who knows nothing about weather and nothing about the terminology, what is a tidal surge? How does a tidal surge actually happen? What's going on when a tidal surge happens?
Okay, well, first of all, tidal surge is the tide itself shifts from high to low. I think everybody in the county knows that.
Everybody knows that.
When a storm is approaching, a storm has a tendency to push more water in front of it. So that makes the tide, the high tide, higher than a normal high tide, if that makes any sense to you. So it's going to be abnormally high because the storm is pushing water towards the water source.
Okay.
So that means in the bay, you could have a higher than average tide. Depends on the position of the storm again. If the storm is on the opposite side of where we think it is, you'll actually have an above average low tide.
Well, that's when it pulls it out and all of a sudden it's like looks like a desert. That was wild last time that happened.
And another tip about hurricanes, the most dangerous part of a hurricane for us is the northeast quadrant of a hurricane, or the upper right quadrant. So that depends a lot on storm track also. Anybody who was around for Isabel, the storm tracked west, that pushed the most important part of or the most dangerous part of the storm right over the bay, which caused a lot of our tidal issues. This storm right now, with the current track it's on, does not present a tidal surge threat. That is today. For those of you who are concerned about that and live near tidal areas, you're going to have to continue to watch that and monitor that. We'll do our best to post it on our page, but please refer to the National Weather Service pages to look for that.
And by the way, good plug, you can always go to aacounty.org and there's a spotlight there for hurricane information. You click on that, you go right to the OEM page. It has all the latest watches and warnings. It has evacuation zones or flood zones information, and it has a full preparedness guide for any citizen. It's very easy to read. You can follow it step by step on what you need to do to be prepared. Again, go check that out, aacounty.org. We should still be on, Dale.
Are you still running?
Yeah, I think I'm still good.
Because I got an error, a thing that says storage full.
Oh, just cancel that out. It should be fine.
Okay.
So let's talk about warnings and watches.
Okay.
What's the difference between a warning and a watch?
Okay, a watch means conditions for whatever the watch is posted. So in other words, if it's a tropical storm watch, that means conditions are possible, tropical storm conditions are possible within the next 48 hours. A warning means the conditions are imminent within the next 48 hours.
Are we under a watch now?
We are not.
Okay. So you think we'll go under a watch like maybe Thursday or Wednesday night?
From what I've seen right now on the track of the storm, I don't think so, but again, it's still 900 miles from North Carolina, so we have to carefully watch all of that.
Watch. Huh?
You got
So
it?
wait, are you saying we might not go under a watch at all? I'm not asking you to predict the future. I just found that interesting. I thought, if it's going to rain, we're going to get a watch no matter what. But
No, not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
If we stay on the outside fringes of the rain shield, the area that rains, it means that we probably will not need a watch. We may need a flash flood watch or a minor flood watch. But I don't want to commit to that yet. That's the Weather Service's specialty. My specialty is trying to protect our citizens.
we got a comment here from Keith Whalen. I don't know if you know Keith from our fire department. I believe Keith is retired, but shout out to you, Keith. Keith says, County Police and Fire will again respond to any and all emergencies. They will have all of the resources needed to be successful. We've always been blessed with additional staffing when needed, adequate equipment, etc. God bless all first responders. We second that, right?
Well said, Keith, particularly on today. Thank you very much for saying that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Keith. Thank you for your service, too. There was a question. Hold on, let me go down here a little bit. Mike says, take inventory.
Yes, Mike, that's what I was speaking of earlier when I said to take your cell phone, walk around your home, and take photos of all your valuables. It's easy to write down later what's in the picture because you know what's in the picture, but the pictures are going to be what proves what inventory you had in your home.
Good. Okay, let's talk about what services the Office of Emergency Management provides to keep people informed. Obviously, a lot of people are watching this on your Facebook page, which just went over 10,000 followers yesterday, so that's
As
very
you
exciting.
predicted, sir.
As I predicted, but anybody could predict that. But people really focus in on these sources when storms are approaching, and your department provides a great resource there to keep people informed. So thank you for doing that. And by the way, maybe this is a good time to mention that County Executive Steve Shue actually changed the structure so the Office of Emergency Management is its own separate cabinet level position. Is that right?
Yeah, that is correct, and it is also
Why do we do that?
a standalone department.
Yeah.
The importance of emergency management in this country cannot be underestimated. Emergency management used to live underneath of another host company or host department. It has since been moved. I went to the CAO's office for a year, and now it's its own standalone department. This is really important for us when it comes to asking for extra resources and making things happen more rapidly. We deal with the Maryland Emergency Management Agency every day. We talk to them every day. We have had several calls with all of our partners again. You were asking about our services. The main purpose of emergency management is coordination and facilitation. It is our job to help the first responders in the field get the items they need to take care of our citizens and to keep our citizens safe. That's our main job. Everything we do in the Emergency Operations Center is all about coordinating assets, coordinating communications, and facilitating items to get them done, facilitating actions to get them completed when needed. We are not the command and control structure. We are the support structure for command and control.
And we should mention also, right behind this wall is our Emergency Operations Center, and actually this entire building in Glen Burnie, the Henry Hine building, is being renovated to make this a really top flight operations center. Tell us a little bit about what's going on there. What capabilities do we have in the Emergency Operations Center?
One of the newest capabilities for us, and we will be one of the very few counties in the state who have this, we will have a joint information center, a dedicated joint information center. That's where
That's
any,
a JIC.
A JIC.
That's the JIC.
You told me to stay away from the terms.
Sorry.
So,
no, you're right. You did do that. That was good. I'm sorry. I like saying JIC. I don't know.
So anyway, the purpose of a joint information center is to gather and assimilate information so that we can just, all departments can distribute the same message to citizens and to press and to other media as needed.
Okay, and so walk us through, for somebody who's never been in the Emergency Operations Center, what goes on in there? I mean, I always like to say it's like, it would be the best place to watch March Madness ever, or football, because you got all these screens, you got all this technology, you got an internal communication system that you can do. I'm searching for the words that's text-based, that everyone's communicating by. It's called Web EOC, right?
Web EOC, yes. In our Emergency Operations Center, we have the capability to communicate in several different methods and formats with several different partners. One of the things we do as a communicator and a facilitator is tie all those different parts together so that they all match and that everybody is understanding the message the same way. We have amateur radio in our Emergency Operations Center. Whenever we activate, we have amateur radio come in. That is a backup to our fire and police radio system. They can get a message out when nobody else can, based on the equipment that they use. We also stay in touch with the Maryland Emergency Management Agency. We have all of the county all the state highway cameras up, the chart cameras. We keep news stations going with news information. We have a national hurricane screen that we use. So we stay connected to every resource there is in almost every way you can imagine to make sure that we're providing accurate information to those in the field who are making those decisions. As those in the field, those commanders in the field, police and fire commanders, ask or need for resources, it's our job to find it, coordinate it, and get it to them as fast as possible.
And I've had the benefit of being here, when we had the Snowmageddon, I was here way longer than I wanted to be. I was here during Irene, which I think turned into a tropical storm when all was said and done. And it's really a well-run operation and something to behold, to see everybody in the room. It's a very collegial atmosphere, but it's also everybody's on point, and we have volunteers here. We have representatives from BGE. When we're activated, we're not currently activated, but when we're activated, we have representatives from BGE, from Public Works, from Police and Fire, from every possible agency you could think of, the National Guard,
State Police.
Everybody's here, and you can easily communicate, of course, with the State Emergency Operations Center, and I guess federal if need be. But
Absolutely. The big thing about the Emergency Operations Center, when we go to what's called fully activated, we have about 28 people in the Emergency Operations Center representing just about every department and every walk of life you can imagine. So again, our primary goal is to provide that support and coordination, and to make sure our citizens their needs are taken care of as we can handle those.
We're getting some very specific questions now. Two people who actually want to know Glen Burnie specifically. What is going to happen to Glen Burnie? But if you could go back a little bit, I think some folks weren't on the feed at the beginning. A lot of questions, when are we going to see this and how bad is it going to be? So could you kind of loop back around?
Sure, absolutely. The latest weather forecast I have from the Hurricane Center and from the National Weather Service, the path right now, the projected path, has taken a favorable turn for Anne Arundel County. And what that means to us is less rain, less wind, and less tidal surge. That does not mean we should let our guard down and forget about it. Not right now. The storm is 900 miles away. It could change course at any time, and we could be right back in the bullseye again. But as it stands right now, the conditions that go along in the country right now that affect the hurricane are such that it's probably going to kind of collar the hurricane and keep it in North Carolina until it begins to dissipate.
Okay. Karen says, what is the, I'm not sure what she's trying to say. What is the website address so I can add Anne Arundel? So the easiest thing to do is go to aacounty.org, and that you'll quickly get to where you're trying to go. If you want to go to the Office of Emergency Management and look at all the updates and the preparedness guide, you just simply click on the spotlight that has a picture of a hurricane and says hurricane information. And there you can find all the materials that the Office of Emergency Management has created over the course of the year and a couple of years to make sure you have all the information you need. If you scroll down to the bottom of the page, you can find our social media channels. We are broadcasting on Anne Arundel County's official Facebook page. You can also like Anne Arundel OEM. What I do is I search in the bar, I search Arundel OEM, Arundel space OEM, and it comes right up. You'll see this logo behind me. That's how you know you're at the right page. So please do that, and we're gonna have the steady flow of information coming through. Destiny says, much appreciated for doing this. Thank you again for doing this, Kevin. More questions about Glen Burnie. Okay, here's a question. I'm gonna get to Bob's question. But first of all, he mentions Isabel, and I know you have a lot of experience with these storms. Tell us about sort of the most memorable one for you. Where were you and what were you doing?
Well, actually, Bob, that's not Bob's question, right? Anyway.
He mentioned Isabel.
Okay.
We will get to Bob's question, we promise.
Okay. I have been intimately involved with 3 storms. Okay. Agnes back in 1972. Yeah,
you're not old enough for that.
Yes, I was.
Oh my gosh.
I was involved in Agnes. I was in another county working, and I was involved in Isabel, and I was in a different county working, and I was involved with Sandy. And out of all the storms, Sandy was probably the most scary because it was right off of Maryland's eastern coast. And as everyone knows, where it hit in New Jersey and New York, had it been about an 80 or 70 mile shift in path, it would have crashed into the eastern shore, and we would have had the same kind of damage in Maryland that New York and New Jersey experienced. So that's the 3 storms that come to my mind that I remember the most.
But you got any good stories for me about it? Did you end up, did you save a cat from a roof or anything like that?
The only thing I can tell you about Isabel that was interesting is I was living across the bridge on Kent Island at the time, and I got a phone call at 3 o'clock in the morning with a neighbor screaming that her house was underwater, and I went to my front door to try to go across the street to help her. She had a waterfront, and I watched a pier float down the street in front of my house.
Oh my gosh.
Before I waded to her house and helped her move furniture. So
wow.
Yeah, there are memories like that. Agnes, back then we didn't have all of the sophisticated technology we have now, and when people needed to be rescued from the water, my volunteer fire department went and picked up 2 boats from the bait shop that was down the street, and we took boats and went out and rescued people. And at that time, we didn't have life jackets and personal flotation devices and all those things. We just went out in the water and did what we needed to do.
Well, I should say thank you for your service. I know you have a lot of experience in the fire department, and thank you for everything that you do for the citizens. I'm sure they appreciate the hard work that you've done. And so let's get to Bob's question. Bob's question was, now I have to find you, Bob. Okay, will this be like Isabel? Expect creek and local rivers flooding. That's a question. Point Pleasant, Ferndale, Marley Creek areas being flooded. So I guess he's asking about, are we going to see some flooding in our local waterways, even if the hurricane hits North Carolina and not Washington, D.C.?
Bob, that possibility exists, and the reason it exists is because we've had so much rain over the past week or 2. We're expecting more rain possibly tonight and tomorrow night. It has nothing to do with the storm that's approaching. And if the storm approaches, and if we get, let's just guesstimate another 2 to 4 inches of rain from the storm, yeah, I believe we will have some localized freshwater flooding in some low-lying areas. I do believe that. I don't want to predict that for sure. Again, it depends on the path of the storm, but that possibility does exist. It's real.
And Bob, please don't go kayaking on Friday in Marley, okay? Just no, don't do that. I'm not that Bob, I don't know you. I don't think you're gonna do that, but folks, just out of caution, stay out of the water on Friday, okay? And
out of an abundance of caution.
and probably Saturday and Sunday as well. Let's see here. Karen says she's talking about CEAN, the Community Emergency Alert System. I've never heard of that.
I think she may be referring to our reverse notification system where we can contact the community by way of telephone
If
or cell
not,
phone.
good segue.
We do have something called Code Red.
Code
You
Red.
can sign up for that on our webpage. It is a way for you to get alerts and messages directly from us when we send them out.
And that is also on the Office of Emergency Management website. So again, how does it work? So you sign up, and then what? You get text messages.
You get text messages and you get phone calls if we have some type of emergency where we need to contact you. It's a good system. It is a lifesaver. It's been proven throughout the country, and we continue to use that system when we need it. We try not to overuse it for anything. I know some of you have gotten phone calls for things like mosquito spraying and some other issues, but it's one of the few ways we can actually contact people and let them know what's going on. So you may get messages other than dire emergency messages.
So our director did in fact order the Code Red. You did in fact order it. How about this, Kevin? Mandy says you guys need your own news show. Very entertaining. Good job.
Well,
Thank you, Mandy. Checks in the mail.
Mandy, in case you don't know it, Dave does have his own news show. And
That's
he's
right.
pretty doggone good at it,
No,
as is his partner. And it's on the Arundel cable channel, so
That's right.
it's worth watching if you haven't watched it.
That's right. Week in Review every Friday, Mandy, 9 a.m. Check it out. It's a good show.
Shameless self-promotion.
Yes, well, I'm always happy to do that. All right, let's see what else we got here. You know what? Just for fun, I see somebody mention the name Florence. How does this naming system work? And why do they always come up with such funny names?
I'm going to be 100% honest with everybody listening. I don't have a clue. All I know is when something gets a name, it's my responsibility to watch out for our citizens, and that's what I do. I don't care what it's named. We're going to do our job.
Well, I
But
think,
I truly don't know.
And maybe someone can help us who's watching right now. The only thing I know about it is that it's alphabetical. So the National Weather Service just goes, okay, last was Harvey, next is Irene, and then after Irene is Mary or whatever. And they never use a name twice, right? So
Well, but it is counterintuitive. As an example, the clouds over your head right now are from Gordon, but Florence is coming.
I know. And are they coordinating Florence?
Yeah,
And are they friends?
As the tropical waves come off of Africa, that's where the hurricanes start. As those tropical waves come off of Africa, as they start to form, they're given numbers initially. And it might say like Tropical Depression 101.1.
Okay.
Okay, as it becomes stronger, when it gets to tropical storm strength, it is given a name. That name, they're picked out by the National Hurricane Center, and they are in alphabetical order, but I really do not know much more than that about the origin or where they get the names from.
I bet you it's a fun story.